Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and occasional backer of big, expensive board games. With this video, I'll be unboxing the recently arrived Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game, designed by Archon Studios. Before we jump in, I want to say that I am a huge fan of Heroes 3. It's in my top 5, at least, all-time favorite video games. So back in the mid-90s, before the internet was much of anything, kid me would pore over gaming magazines. And that year, whatever year that would have been, probably literally 95 or something, 96 maybe, I asked my folks for Heroes of Might and Magic as a PC game. We'd just gotten a PC only a year or two earlier, I believe. And my magazine was so outdated at the time that what I actually received that holiday was a copy of Heroes of Might and Magic 2, which I absolutely adore because Heroes 2 is an amazing game. And unfortunately, I don't have that original box, but I did keep my original Heroes 2 expansion box, the price of loyalty. Pretty awesome. Loved Heroes 2 back in the day. A few years later, in the late 90s, I believe, I was super excited to pick up Heroes of Might and Magic 3, and it was the best game ever. I think I only spent more time on EverQuest around that teenage gaming days era. I played through all the campaigns, expansions, scenarios. I still have my box for Armageddon's Blade, for example. Even dabbled a bit through online gaming, although that was just kind of becoming a thing around the turn of the century. It was just a lot of amazing, good single-player fun. And I enjoyed the series for years afterwards. Heroes 4 I picked up was a bit weird and different. Heroes 5 was actually pretty great after 3DO went down and the series went to Ubisoft, and they looked at Heroes 3 and said, hey, let's just make kind of a more 3D version of that, and it actually held up pretty well. And then finally, after playing those expansions, I fell off, and around the time of Heroes 6 and 7, didn't actually play those games through, and they've been getting pretty mixed results. I think I've picked them up on Steam since then, but I will say I still play Heroes 3 to this day. It holds up remarkably well. It's just a perfect turn-based tactical 4X fantasy strategy mods, especially with the HD mods from GOG.com and then fan expansions. It's just absolutely phenomenal and still plays well. And in the years since, I've also gotten big into board gaming, as you can see behind me. And obviously with Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop RPGs and here on the channel. Now, that means when a miniatures and board game studio from Poland said they were making a big board game, which, by the way, Heroes 3 is huge in Europe. I'm not sure why it ended up being incredibly popular there, but it doesn't surprise me that it came from Europe. They were making a big board game based on Heroes 3. Well, I was the Fry from Futurama meme of shut up and take my money, because I was so excited as a board game fan, as a huge fan of the genre, and as a huge fan of this particular IP. How could I say no to backing this game, even practically sight unseen? Yes, give me all the things. I am a sucker. Let's go. Now, that being said, I have certainly been burned before with disappointing results from Kickstarter board games in the past. I'm hoping this isn't one of them, as I am absolutely primed to adore this game. Now, let's take a look at the components. The Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game campaign, initially ran in late 2022. I backed in November, and it had an original release date of December 2023. Obviously, this video is being put up in March 2024, which is when I received it here in the US. So only a couple months overdue, which honestly is, I think, pretty impressive these days for board games. It's a Herculean effort to get these finished and completed. I believe this was completely printed in Europe as well instead of China. As you can see, the box itself, 27 pounds. And this is the Heroes 3 Grail Pledge plus Inferno, including 2 big boxes, which I'm pulling out now, that include all the individual boxes. Boxes within boxes. I heard you like boxes, so we're going to put some more boxes in there. And the reason it says plus Inferno is because the original campaign actually did not include the Inferno as a faction. It was only in the post, backer section of the campaign that you could add on the Inferno expansion, but it cost additional money, which a lot of people were salty about. in terms of not being part of the initial campaign, but it just wasn't. They just kind of offered it as an expansion that they would go ahead and work on and be able to release. So for the purposes of this video, I backed the Grail pledge, which include the Azure core game, the Azure stretch goals, the Battlefield expansion, and then it had a stretch goal neutral faction expansion, and then I believe 3 other expansions, or was it 4? Let's see, Fortress, Rampart, Tower, and Inferno. So 4 total factions, and the core game comes with 3 factions. So this right here is the Astrologer's Answer. I wasn't sure what this was. And again, I haven't really been following updates as before this came, but this is what it looks like to be a FAQ, frequently answered questions, in its own separate booklet. So I think you know the game is going to be pretty dense when the actual frequently asked questions is an entire like 6, 7, 8 page booklet that was thrown in there. Hopefully answer some questions. I've heard the rule book is not the best with this game, which is unfortunate. I've had a lot of cool board games in the past which kind of got sunk because of some very difficult rule books to get through. This is the books. The boxes are absolutely stacked full of all of the different board games, which I did not get. I think they had a storage chest option that you could back, and these would all fit inside a giant storage chest, which I have the equivalent of that for Dice Throne. I do not, if you look at the right side of the board of your screen, have that for Final Girl. However, I just have the individual boxes, and I think I think these boxes look fantastic. They're all the same size. They've got some great art on it, so I do not mind these putting up there on my shelf with this art. Unfortunately, the only thing it doesn't have is on the side. It doesn't include the horizontal words the way that kind of some other board games would, where you can turn it one way so they'll lay flat, and the other way, and they can lay more vertical. In this case, the words all seem to go the same direction no matter which way you put it on there. So it'll look better if you stack them horizontally versus vertically. But of course, we all like, if you can see right there, that core game is a lot heavier. That angel is frowning so hard. I don't know why such a frown on the angel. That's the actual core box, which is significantly larger, but it's structured differently than the expansions, and I'll show you how that works once we go through all the boxes, and we're going to speed up a little bit so we can get through this a little bit quicker. All right, so this box, you can see there, includes the new Inferno expansion, which, so folks could have backed the entire game, gotten everything, but then not done that final post-game add-on and gotten the Inferno expansion, which is just equal to all the other expansion boxes, except the tower actually includes some extra stretch goals, which we'll see later on in the video. We've got the Rampart expansion. In fact, I believe with the Inferno now, we've got 7 of the 8 base game factions included with the game. The only one missing, again, from the base game of Heroes 3, I love that art on all the different corners, is Stronghold, and I think Archon Studios has already revealed they're going to do Stronghold, and I believe Conflux, which was an expansion one, as future just expansions that you can purchase. This is the Battlefield expansion, which the base game comes with this very tiny map you can use to battle your units on, but if you look at all the minis and just the way the Heroes 3 tactical battlefield works, it's a humongous tactical grid that, you know, changes into this whole other combat screen. That's included in the Battlefield expansion, which is an absolutely humongous thing, which you could just play that mode, or you could incorporate that into the larger adventure mode as well. So I believe we're going to start off by looking at the core box first. All right, so here we've got the all-important rule book, the Black Dragon on the cover, a nice little player's aid on the back, which are included as separate little pamphlet cards as well. The rule book is very large. It seems to be pretty good quality. I like the art throughout. Of course, I'm not reading the rule book as I'm recording this video, and I have unfortunately heard some reports that the rule book is a little difficult, but look at the artwork. I had to like stop and pause at this. This is exactly lifted from the art from Heroes 3, which is a huge reason why Heroes 3 is so successful and still looks great today. Heroes 2 also is that classic, like just colorful fantasy art that still looks so dang good throughout there. And the components right there, you can see the basic setup. That's just the rulebook, and this rulebook does not include any of the actual scenario stuff, which we'll see in a second when we get to the other books. Now we've got the tournament book. I'll be honest, I don't know what this is. It looks like you can make up your own maps and scenarios, and includes basic scenarios with maybe just certain different setups. There's also a separate mission book, so I'll be honest, I'm not sure. I haven't. This isn't a deep dive into each individual component so much as just going over, all the different stuff included in there. So that's even more ways to play. And then the mission book, which has the awesome bone dragon on the cover, which has an amazing mini we'll see soon. You can see there's different difficulty levels on the back, and then I'm trying to figure out how to open this to be the best look through scenario preparation. Again, you've got some awesome unit art throughout this book, and it describes different modes of play, which there's clashes, which I believe are smaller, maybe competitive modes, and then you've got a cooperative mode where you each can actually play against an AI, which sounds pretty great, because frankly, whenever I play giant 4X games with friends, I'd kind of rather just play on a team against the AI. I think it's just cooler that way, and we can just all enjoy the experience together. And then you have also these giant campaign missions you can play, which have their own story, which is fascinating. I'm really excited to look into that. I've honestly gotten really into solo board gaming, as you can see by the Final Girl I've got, and Marvel Champions, and some other solo, and they're just games that even have this. Tedwick is definitely a name I recognize. Long Live the Queen being a campaign from Heroes 3, so absolutely amazing to have there. Now we've got our player aids. These are gigantic. Usually when you get a little player aid, it's like a card with double-sided, and this time it's an actual whole giant leaflet thing, a pamphlet you hand somebody. We've got several pages worth of punch-outs. Here are your hex map grids, which are also just incredibly nostalgic. If you have played Heroes 3, they look like you are just going over that map. All the castles are there, all the little tree of knowledge, the shrines, the temples. It's just so the witch's hut, the mines, waterfalls, trading posts. Oh my gosh, I just have a huge nostalgiasm right now looking at these hex grid maps. This game, I can already tell, is probably going to replace Mage Knight for me, and I'm not even the biggest Mage Knight fan. There we go. We've got some heroes here. So the base core game comes with, it looks like, one hero card for faction, and then that card is double-sided, so you've got your Hero of Might and your Hero of Magic. I know a lot of people are saying, well, wait a minute, the game is called Heroes of Might and Magic, it only comes with one of each. That's kind of lame, which means if you play with, and you can hire a second one, that second one doesn't even have its own card or anything. That's true, but then as we get to the stretch goals section, you will see that they did actually add some additional ones. Here is the small, tiny, where you could just use the cards instead of the minis to battle on this little battle map, which I think would be hugely disappointing if the Battlefield expansion didn't exist and you could only play on that. That would be a bummer. So I'm glad the Battlefield expansion exists. These are, I love the components here. Everything's got the nice trays, so it keeps all the minis from, rattling around. I love that it's got Heroes 3 on there. These are the actual hero minis. So this is what you'll be using as you go around that adventure board. Gosh, can we get some focus? There we go. And these, I believe, are the non-shaded minis. Again, I think these are non-shaded minis, and I still think they look pretty damn good. The purple are dungeon, the blue is castle, and of course, the gray is the necropolis. Look at that nasty with the bone zombie horse. That looks so damn cool. So I like that they're not all just, the same mini in different colors. They really do reflect their factions very, very well. And the fact that they didn't even give you one, they gave you at least two for each one to denote if you're more of the Might hero or the Magic hero is pretty spiffy. So that's what you'll find in terms of the minis. The only minis in the core box are actually just the heroes for those three factions that are included in the core box, which is Castle, Necropolis, and Dungeon. Those are the only three. We've got the town maps here. These are your town boards, which I think got a huge glow up and upgrade from what it was listed to in the Kickstarter. It's got the recessed little spaces so you can track your production value, your actions for your town stuff, all your abilities. And then what I didn't do, unfortunately, on this video, because it made me nervous doing this in front of the camera, you can see me trying to peel it, and then I feel like I'm going to rip the whole thing off, so I don't. I will say that if you kind of crack it a little bit, that sounds horrifying, but just a little bit of a pop, you'll pop those things out kind of on the side, but it honestly made me a little nervous, to kind of pop those out of the top. But those are your building upgrades, so you would actually start with those off the board, and then as you upgrade your buildings, you would then put them on the board kind of like little puzzle pieces. I loved this part of it too. I just flipped them over and saw, oh, there's some cool art on the back versus just having gray or black or something. That's the kind of component stuff I really like to see from big Kickstarter board games. It's just everything's got something cool component feature on there. So that looks real spiffy. So again, the core game is going to come with those 3 factions. I love me some Necropolis. I can hear that song. That violin was, oh, it's so good. It gives me goosebumps. This whole tray comes off and reveals a bunch of cards. We've got 2 huge decks here, as well as some dice and some cubes, which we will look at. Look at that huge deck of cards. And I didn't realize it's a bit of a deck builder, is the way they kind of adapt all the different spells and the different hero skills in the game. Is they let you build your deck full of cards and use those to activate all your special abilities. And yes, each expansion as well comes with its own cards. The hero or the unit cards, as shown here, I was interested to see how they were going to do upgrades, and the answer is they don't do the individual unit upgrades because that would literally double the amount of minis, which I get. It's unfortunate because Heroes 3, one of the huge upgrades coming from 2 to 3, in Heroes 2, only some of the units had upgrades. In Heroes 3, every single unit had a full upgrade, which means it got a completely different unit, and it looked different, and it had different stats, and some of them were like must-haves, others were just kind of okay. In this game, it looks like you do get a little upgrade on the back, and they've got, or maybe it's just, honestly, I don't know what we're looking at here, but it's a foil on the back. One side is a normal unit, and the back side is the same unit, but with a foil, and then it looks like the stars might change, or might just denote how powerful the unit are. Okay, so some are copper, and some are silver and gold. So I'm not sure if the back, I know it's got some different terminology, but I'm not quite sure. Again, I haven't looked at the rule book or anything. Gosh, can we get some focus in here? There we go. So if you were just playing, I think you could play the game completely without the miniatures and just play with these unit cards, because that's what's got all the, the important stats on there and everything else. So that's 3 factions worth of units. I think I want to say there's 7 units per faction, I believe. And again, with no upgrades, so that's, what is that, 21 units or so. That's included in the core game. And we're also going to look at, just briefly, each of the factions are color-coded. So the blue for castle, purple for dungeon, and the kind of black or gray is for necropolis. Those are your treasure dice, and I believe combat dice as well. It kind of determines the rewards you get, as well as inject a bit of randomness to the game. And then we're going to crack open these cards real quick and see maybe some card examples. All right, so here's just briefly going through one of the decks. You can see that it's got skills, it's got items, just everything, I guess, comes in a single deck, and it's used to both when you level up your hero, as well as when you go to various sites and get different spells, and then perhaps get different rewards. You can just play these cards and get all these different effects. Again, I'm not well versed in how to play the game. There are other videos that can do that, but just looking at the components, there are certainly a lot of 2 huge decks full of all those cards for just the core game, and then the expansions also each come with their own deck of cards. I don't know if those are designed to be integrated into all games forever, or if those are just designed to be played with those when those particular expansions are in play. And I'm realizing at this point in the video, I probably should have put all the boxes on the back instead of the side. That way my board game shelf would be a little less distracting for all of you. Here we're looking at the Stretch Props and Neutral Units box, which I probably shouldn't have done this as the first one I opened, but it was just the first one I had available, because this shows kind of everything else, essentially. This is neutral units that no faction technically has, but I guess can be recruited at some point on the map, as well as just kind of a glow-up with various pieces that you can acquire, so like the treasure chests and the way the valuables work. I think they integrated all the different like gems and crystals and things into one resource, to where there's basically building materials, which is kind of your wood and ore, and then your gold, and then just everything else is part of the crystal stuff. Some coins got the upgrade. These are all this is pretty standard for Kickstarter projects that make too much money. I do love that the Heroes 3 is printed on the trays like that. And then these are the neutral units, and all the different units are color-coded, so I guess they just went with yellow for neutral, but also this includes all of the individual castles. So if you just wanted your castles to look a little bit more three-dimensional, there's the tower castle right there that you can plop it on there. Very much like Mage Knight, although Mage Knight has the little hero clicks and they have little things on them. These are just purely for decorative purposes, and they look really spiffy. There's my beloved Necropolis looking so good. Love me some skeletons. And then pull out a few of the neutral units and take a look at that, including at least one of those big dragons. Alright, so here we're looking at the actual faction units from the core game. So this is the one I probably should have shown before the extra stretch goal one. But these actually have the minis that belong to the core game faction. So your dungeon, your castle, and your necropolis. So your purple, blue, and gray. Here's the... Oh man, this bone dragon is the best. It's got like an open rib cage. It looks so incredible. That is my new favorite mini. I think still my favorite mini from the bunch. There's your amazing black dragon. Yes, it's purple because it's purple like the rest of the dungeon units, but I think, you know, the yellow did not look the best. I think the blue and the gray both look fantastic, and I think what we're going to see a little bit later is the dark green from the Rampart units also look absolutely incredible. The Angel made me nervous. It's only attached by a little bit of a leg right there. Hang on, buddy, as you smite your evildoers with your nice prance. Obviously, some really nice dynamic poses from these minis as well. Just some really good stuff on there. Here's one I want to highlight real quick. The Manticore has gotten some odd, strange ramblings about the fact there's no face. Look, I don't see no face on it. It just has mane. It looks like it's some sort of weird plant creature. That's not... I think this might be a printing error, folks. I think people have been complaining about the fact their Manticore has no face, and I'm prepared to... Oh, no, I do see it. I do see it. There it was. There was a face. I see it. Okay, I do see a face in there. It's very hard to see the face. It's very hard. I'm not a big fan of this mini. I think they went a little crazy with the mane, so there is a face in there. People will be scrubbing this video left and right to see it, but I did see a face. It is just extremely hard to see, just like it's extremely hard for my camera to focus on this poor evil eye. It is just too squiggly and thin to be able to see it properly, but I think the purple looks really good for the dungeon minis for sure. Alright, now it's time to look at the Battlefield Expansion. This is the one I teased from earlier in the video, where you can actually play with the full tactical grid battle map that was a big part of the Heroes of Might and Magic experience. Which I'm very glad this exists, and I think this is probably the right way to do it, which is maybe just an optional system that can be integrated into the base game or played separately if you just wanted to have big skirmishes with some units and really just test out the way that the combat works using a proper huge giant battlefield without just that little tiny thing for the cards. And especially if you have the minis, like, it just makes sense to want to use the mini battlefield. So it is absolutely enormous compared to that rinky-dink little basic map. You can see as I struggle to unfold this thing while still trying to keep it in the camera picture. Wait for it. It's got 6 different unfoldable maps. We can do this. Okay, we got it. Okay. Oh, except I think it may be upside down because this guy is over there. So maybe we can flip it around. Aha, there we go. There it is. And that looks exactly like you're battling on the grassland. You can see the place where you can deploy your units for each side. And that is a giant tactical grid map where you could have some lovely, lovely battles with those miniatures. I would definitely use that over the cards, but we'll have to see. I'll have to see what the rulebook says, and then here's all the different obstacles you can put on that hex grid map in the very bottom little punch board there. Very, very thin box, but I think it comes with a lot of content because that's where you want to be doing your battling on with the Battlefield expansion. Also came with its own deck of cards I kind of glossed over. I didn't even actually open those cards, so I'm not sure. Again, do those need to be integrated into the base game? Hopefully there's some good instructions for using all this content. All right, so now we're starting to look at expansion content. Initially I thought, well, maybe I'll just open one and take a look at one of those and get an example, and then I will kind of run through the others a little quickly. This is the Inferno, which gets the biggest dive because I think the Inferno was the biggest question people had. It was not part of the basic campaign. It was added as an not an afterthought, but just kind of a final, like, oh, we're coming down the stretch, and if anybody wants to add this on top of their like $200 US pledge, or whatever it was, 180 bucks or something, then you can get this in additional expansion. And, you know, none of us have played the game yet. We don't know if it's going to be any good, but we're also all like, yeah, okay, fine. You gotta have all the factions, right? So the Inferno was that big question mark where we didn't really get to see any of the stuff in action and just kind of had to trust Archon Studios. But as you can see here, you get some new map tiles, all of which have the Inferno's main terrain on there, as well as their castles. And we've got their their heroes, which we get twice as many as the base game does. So we actually get 2 different hero cards for a total of 4 heroes that come with the Inferno. And the way the expansions are set up, you get all the components obviously in that expansion box. So it includes the minis, the town board, the cards, all those things you need. So this is obviously the Inferno town board, has the exact same quality as the others, with that cool backing on there, which shows the units and stuff on there. Inferno kind of got a bad rap in Heroes 3. Not one of the strongest ones, but gosh, all the factions were just so thematic, and I enjoyed pretty much playing all of them. I think Castle was a little boring, even though they were also very, very strong. You can see they've got their own unit cards, obviously. Same thing with the foils on the back. Oh, interesting. It says pack on the back. I don't know if you have like a bunch, maybe more than one, then you flip it over. I'm not certain. And look at the amount of cards it comes with. This was also, I was like, wait a minute, is scouting not in the base game? Like, I'm not sure. I love their cubes though. Red and black looks very cool for Inferno. And I think the red obviously ends up fitting Inferno very well. You can see we've got the Inferno castle. Now, most of them don't come with the castle. I think the stretch props, as you saw in that box, came with all the castles. I think Inferno was a little bit special because it needed the castle after the fact, perhaps. You can see the Hellhound looks awesome. Look at the base mini, too. It just looks like it's part of the Inferno terrain. But I love, again, the dynamic poses. The way it's jumping up is really spiffy. I'm going to go look at some more of the units here as well. Now, something I forgot to show, which is part of a edit right there, is I forgot to show the actual heroes, which are the main things you'd be using on the battlefield. The actual hero units is you get 2, of course, like the others. However, one of mine came with an error, which you'll see here on the video, is that one of my Inferno heroes lost their head. Oh, crap. What a weird one to lose, too. It wasn't even like a flimsy part or a thing. It just... Unfortunately, the head knocked off, so I think we can fix that with some glue, hopefully. I don't think it's worth trying to ask for a new one, but that is a bummer, and hopefully it was the only one. You know, I went through and checked the minis, and I think it's just kind of part and parcel with a game this big, traveling that far. It's a bummer, but I think that one is fixable, and at least it's not like a main structure of the actual mini that got damaged, like it fallen off the base or something. Here I'm stacking all of the aims. You can see how they will look. I'll have to take up 2 of my shelving spots on my Calyx as well. All right, so real quick, we're going to take a look at the other factions, just kind of a run through. This is Rampart. I freaking love this Hydra mini so much. Holy crap. The dark green looks amazing on the minis. There's the Wyvern. Honestly, Rampart, oof. I love that Bone Dragon, but that Hydra mini, my goodness, super, super sexy with the Rampart mini. Now, the tower one, I paused right here because this one actually came with some additional components. Look at the size of the Titan compared to the others, which is appropriate. The Titan should be dragon-sized. Absolutely love my absolute unit, as they say. Look at the other hero unit, too. Look at this way the horse is, like, flying over and, like, half elemental. I think that's supposed to be Solmir. Like, on the horse, it's, like, only got two, like, the front half of it facing down. That's absolutely crazy. There's a gargoyle, which looks very spiffy. So I think the gray, kind of white gray, fits the tower pretty well. But this one also came with additional components. And it says on the box, tower plus stretch goals. You can see my wife at this point has wandered in and was like, what the hell are you looking at? What are you doing? And it comes with just a lot of extra stuff that I had forgotten was kind of added later after the fact, which was additional heroes. I believe this one, like Inferno, added, additional card for the tower. And then it also added additional hex spots, map pieces, and one additional hero card, which is double-sided. So another 2 heroes, essentially, for every single faction in the game. So as well as the previous ones, like Rampart and Fortress, and the 3 core ones that are included in the base game. So the tower box actually includes a bunch of additional expansions, and I think everybody got this as part of their core game, I believe the other expansions you had to get, like the Grail Pledge, but I believe everybody got this tower, which included kind of just a ton of extra content for everybody. Now, of course, the big question remains, where the heck is this going to go on the shelf? I hope everybody enjoyed this unboxing video for Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game. Be sure to give a like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video, and let me know if you want to see more board game content on the site. Otherwise, be sure to check out the channel for lots of D&D reviews, videos, live streams, and all that great stuff. Thank you so much.